Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Hi. You're on mute, Mari.
I said join with audio. Julie and I were just on a Zoom call. I mean, just ended, so she's probably just getting her stuff and is gonna jump on soon.
Sounds good.
Get my stuff together. How are you, Kathy?
I'm fine. How are you?
Pretty good. I kind of wish the humidity would go away, but I'm
Hey,
getting the
look
humidity.
at a redhead with curly wavy hair have a problem with humidity? No.
I don't even try. I
I
just
wouldn't
like,
even know what you're talking about.
I'm like, I just put some like diffuser in my hair and go. Like,
Yeah. I stay inside so much. It just anymore. It just doesn't even, time just goes so fast. So is Kate going to be the chamber rep on here? Do we know? Or do we know who the chamber rep for tourism is yet?
I don't know that. Do you, Laura?
I do not. Oh.
That's an excellent question.
It
Yeah.
has it listed as vacant. So
Oh, there's Julie. She's coming in.
she knows all the skinny on everything.
Find out.
Oh, brother. Well.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Julie, have you heard anything from the chamber? Who's going to be their rep
Their rep.
for the tourism?
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's on there. I have to talk to Lori about that because we've only had 6 people. So I'm not sure if that's a holdover from when Van was on.
Oh, okay.
And she just didn't take it off. I'm guessing that's what it was.
I always thought that it was, well, Van always came to the meetings, but I always thought it was whoever they could say, just somebody from the chamber coming over representing. I didn't know if it had to be one person or if it, I don't know.
Yeah, and I Kate and I had talked back in the beginning of her tenure over there.
Yeah,
I was giving her a chance to get acclimated
right.
to what she needed to be doing before
Mhm.
we invited her over, and then
Sure.
the pandemic hit and things went sideways for both of
Yes,
us.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think when things settle down a little bit, I would encourage her to start meeting again. We've been trying to meet every couple of months, the 2 of us, just to
Good.
compare notes, and I've been giving her information to take to the Good Neighbor Hub
Yeah,
meetings.
good.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what are we waiting for? Hi, Jose. Susan. Hi, Kevin. See if I got any messages here from anybody. I'm gonna put you on mute for just a moment and grab some water. I'll be right back. Hi, Corey.
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
No worries.
Sorry, I was muted. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
I think you've got everybody here, Corey.
All right, we can go ahead and call the meeting to order, and somebody give me like 30 seconds so I can open up the attachment. Gonna assume the first item up is to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
This is Kathy. I'd move to approve.
There we go, June 10th.
A second.
Anybody have anything to discuss? All in favor, say aye.
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 Perfect. Does anybody oppose? All right, we get to move into elections for commission chair and vice chair.
This is Kathy. I'd nominate Corey for chair.
I second that.
Am I honored?
Of course.
Yes.
You should be.
No. Do we
vote on just Edward first?
Do we vote on that? We have to vote, or is that just a nomination, or?
You do have to vote, yes.
Okay. So we had a first and a second for myself.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Be careful. All
Oh,
right,
the power's going to his head.
Carries, I'll be your chair for the next year again. Or not quite year. 8 months, whatever it is. And then the next item up is the election of the vice chair. Are there any nominations?
I would nominate Jim if he would accept the nomination.
You're on mute, Jim.
I read lips. He said yes.
I think so too. He's nodding his head.
I second, Kath.
All right, so we have a first and a second.
Kathy, we didn't even talk. That's exactly what I was
I know,
going
do you
to say.
guys want to discuss it? It's a pretty big deal here.
Right.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, that one carries as well. We are through the elections, so we can move into updates. Jim, do you want to have the honor?
Yeah, so
Make
not
it
much.
rosy.
Not much has changed. 2020 obviously is still a struggle from a group standpoint and a leisure standpoint at this time. I can say that personally, I'm still receiving a lot of inquiries for business in 2021, although a lot of it is in the second half of the year. That's really about the update that I have. It's it's still tough times, and we're still just doing our best as an industry to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I kind of second that. Really nothing great to report. I think the concern is now, we're booking a lot of business. Well, I don't want to say a lot, but we're booking more than we were in April on the online channels. So, we're seeing I guess a fair amount of that, compared to where we were at in April. But by all means, we're nowhere near where we need to be from the hotel side of things on our side as well. And, I think at least we have our eye on right now is the only thing really left are home football games. And is there going to be a game for starters? And I think we can assume that there's not going to be fans. So then you're kind of removing the rest of our demand for the fall because you've already lost everything else. So I don't know. It could be a pretty dismal fall and winter, but I don't know. I think we're kind of still holding out hope a little bit on something like that, or if not completely throwing the towel on the year and start back up in the spring, I guess. At this point, I don't know. We're doing anything and everything we can. And a lot of the salespeople are wearing multiple hats I know Jim is, and myself included. And I mean, I've been working our wedding market for the last 5 months, and I've rebooked several weddings 3 and 4 different times, with people having to cancel. It's been all over the place. And, you know, and unfortunately everyone that canceled in March and April rebooked in June, July, and August, and they're now canceling again. A lot of them, their venues kind of were just like, hey, sorry, too bad, so sad, you know. So, you know, for the leisure market right now, that's probably our best option this fall, our weddings. And that's not something we really ever say that often, but, you know, to get some activity going. But, you know, when you're at that 10 or less, or 50, I think outside is 50. I don't even know at this point. It's changed. It just doesn't, at that point when you're capping people at 10 to 50, you're kind of at the point of, do they even need to stay overnight? It's mainly probably more local people anyway. So tough times.
Mhm.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on those wedding rebookings for 2021, you know, for a group hotel such as the Marriott, you know, a lot of the rebooking into 2021 is going to create kind of roadblocks to booking larger group business once things do start coming back to normal. You know, obviously we're not going to tell somebody that they can't rebook with us for a wedding for next year, being that we'd already made a commitment for 2020, but you know, booking a wedding into a wide open weekend could potentially preclude us from booking a large conference that then could impact all of Greenway Station and everything else. So I think that there's going to be some residual effects next year because of this too.
Right. So on that positive note, we could move into staff updates and welcome
Hey,
Kevin.
Corey,
Before we go there, can we go around and introduce ourselves?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I say we go in if we want to welcome Kevin, and if everyone wants to go around and introduce yourself, give a brief. I don't know. I'm guessing all of our squares are different. I'll start. I'm Corey with the North Central Group. I work with our hotels in the Middleton area. So we have the Fairfield, Courtyard, Residence Inn, and Hilton Garden Inn.
Kathy? I'll just
Kathy
call you
Olson.
out.
Okay, call me out. The Alder representing tourism on the council. Hey, Corey, I was wondering if we could hear after this, if Jose or Kevin had anything they'd like to share about how their business is going during this time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Jose, I see you next.
Jose Garcia, I'm at Harbor Avenue Diner, downtown Middleton.
Jim?
Jim Strom. I'm with Atrium Hospitality. They own and operate the Marriott Madison West over on John Q. Emmons Boulevard.
And Susan?
Susan Grigsby Reinhardt, resident of Middleton, but meeting planner for American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. Used to work at Gilda's Club, Marriott, and downtown. So, CUNY Mutual Life. Oh my God, the biggest one of my life. CUNY Mutual.
Most time invested.
Exactly.
Like a sentence. Oh, that's not true.
Oops. That's not-
Kevin, you know Laura, Mari, and myself. And Kevin, it's to you.
Yeah, Kevin Bagstead over at Capitol Brewery in downtown Middleton.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Kevin.
Poor Kevin.
All right. We get everyone there, I think.
I believe so.
So, where did you want to like restaurant updates, right, Kathy?
Well, just to get a feel for how things are going with them. If it's
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. If you guys want to give an update.
Well, at my place, nothing really has changed. You know, we're still pretty slow. This last week after the mandate for masks started, it seems like things have dipped a little more. Still hoping for things to recover a little bit, somewhat. But it's not looking good.
Yeah, you know, obviously we get hurt on a bunch of different levels. Same as the hotels of our events, weddings, all the fundraising we do for nonprofits here. You know, all that's been canceled. Same as you guys, we're getting a lot of action on next year. But who knows what that's going to look like. We are lucky that we can have the beer garden open and have as many people in there as we can put 6 feet apart at tables. So that's why we don't have live music at this time, because then that limits us to 25 people. But if we don't have live music, then we can fill every table. So it's kind of weird. So we can have 200 people instead of 25, as long as all our tables are 6 feet apart. So that helps us a little bit, but it's still, we've never been anywhere near 200 people in there. People are still leery about coming out. So obviously our sales are way down, and then we're hit on the distribution side as well because of all the bars being shut down, and so our draft beer sales have plummeted. And that's what we do here. All of our other stuff comes out of Point, so that just passes through this facility. So yeah, it's a struggle. We're down a lot too.
Yeah.
Kevin, have any groups reached out to you to talk about booking for 2021?
I mean, all the main ones have put placeholders in for next year, like
Okay.
Dogtoberfest and, all the big ones we do. And then the weddings, we're getting a lot of people asking about weddings. We didn't make people rebook for next year. We actually gave refunds for we actually had 8 weddings, I think, this year. We were going to have a really, really good beer garden season this year. And we actually refunded everybody. And I think 2 of them have decided to rebook, but we're getting a lot of people reaching out about it, but no one pulling the trigger yet because no one knows what it's going to look like. So.
Anything else, or Julie, do you want to give your update?
I just have a couple of things. I wanted to let you know that we were the recipient of a $500 grant, and this came from the Steve Stricker American Family Foundation. When American Family decided to cancel the PGA golf tournament this year, the foundation determined that they still wanted to award grants to the nonprofits that they generally award these monies to. They made a reach out to Destination Madison, I believe, to talk about the Madison Area Sports Commission. And Deb Archer and Jamie Patrick, who are leaders on their executive team, mentioned that destinations were marketing organizations were not benefiting from PPP or some of the other aid that was available through the CARES Act, and inquired if the foundation might be interested in making a donation to Destinations Wisconsin, which they did, in the amount of $51,000. So Destinations Wisconsin has gone ahead and distributed this to everybody who is a member, and we're pretty grateful to be included in that group. So we'll be using the $500 to put toward advertising that we may not have been able to do without these funds. Volunteer committee updates. When you received your email from Lori Burns notifying you that you had been appointed and approved by the Common Council to sit on the commission, one of her requests was to submit an oath of office. If you haven't done that and you need another copy of that oath, please let me know. I'll email that over to you, and then if you can send that over to Lori, that would be terrific. It came in an email with some other documents that are related to volunteering in this. Susan, you look perplexed.
I don't remember seeing one from her. That's why I'm trying to go through my brain.
It came out in June, and I neglected to bring it to everybody's attention at the last meeting. So maybe I'll just go ahead and forward that email to everybody.
I remember from last year, but not this year.
Sure, I'll just go ahead and forward the email to all of you, and then if you could take care of that, that would be terrific. And then the other question, or I guess the other request that she had, was that we update everyone's contact information. Staff will go ahead and send out what we have for you. If you could just let us know if there are any changes, then we'll communicate that to Lori. That's all I have, Corey.
So then moving on, we don't have any grants. So next item up would be cross country. So that would be TJ and Steve. I think you're up if you want to go ahead and give an update.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. TJ Holson here, Development Director for Central Cross Country Skiing. Steve Cohen is on our Board of Trustees, and Yuri Gusev is our Executive Director. We'll promise to be as brief as possible. Just wanted to give you an update on what's going on. I think the last time I just checked my calendar, the last time we spoke to the commission was about a year ago, June 18th. So a lot happening in that last year. We continue to work in close partnership with the city and Mike Davis, as you know, and it's a crucial time because we're kind of on the verge of gaining site control for the first time and beginning construction for the driveway, the access road, and the initial parking lot, which we're hoping to get in place by this winter. So if I can't, I think I can share my screen. And go. Is that working?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll just remind the commission or any of your new commissioners that, again, we thank the commission for your support a couple years ago with giving us kind of a kickstart on our trail development on the site with a $30,000 gift to get the initial trails developed. So that really kind of helped launch this whole effort. We're moving forward and things are happening pretty quickly here. Since we spoke to you last, we had an economic impact analysis done for us by Hunden Partners. Hunden has worked for Madison Area Sports Commission and others here locally and specializes in sports and public venues and recreational venues of this kind. It's a 50-page report, which we could provide to all of you if you're interested in the details, but here, just a screenshot of a couple summary pages. They're projecting $95 million in new spending as a result of the center over the next 30 years. $1.5 million in Middleton room taxes over that period. They're projecting $27,000 a year for Middleton in new hotel room tax. Our projection, that's extremely conservative, and based on our projection looking at sport events, destination visitors, and what we're projecting for social events as well, we see that as probably nearly double. Estimate is more in the line of $50,000 a year in room tax for Middleton. Let's see here. Here's just a summary of their new visitors and room nights projections for number of new net visitors over the first 30 years. So as I said, we're pushing forward quickly with an effort to get the first phase done by this winter. So right now we're conceiving the project in 3 phases. So phase 1 we hope to complete by this winter, and that's getting that driveway access coming in from Highway 14 up to the top of the site with an initial 15-stall parking lot. Get the trails open, and get snowmaking in place so we can have groomed trails and snowmaking on part of that trail system by this winter. With potentially here a semi-permanent structure as a warming shelter in place for people to get suited up, etc. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 completed by the following winter, so kind of a year and a half out, would be the first section of the building, which would be our headquarters, CXC headquarters, and what we're calling the Touring and Ride Center. So the place for mountain bikers and skiers and hikers and walkers and runners to change their clothes and take a shower if they need to and get some refreshments, etc. The city's mountain bike park should be completed by then. And that, as you recall, is their new trailhead for the city mountain bike trail network with a new pump track and a skills course. So that should all be in place, and then expanding that 15 stall parking lot with another 60 spaces by winter of 21-22. And then looking 2 years out from that, another 2 years out, to getting the funds raised and getting the rest of the community center built, and realizing the full vision of the center. Let me just back up real quick. Back on the phase 2, we're working with Blue Plate Catering, which is our catering partner for social events, and looking into, in the meantime, and what might in fact be very advantageous in the post-pandemic kind of situation is putting in place a permanent tent structure to hold those social events, because social events are a big part of our business model and important to the success of the center. Just a quick Google of some of the recent headlines. I mean, this is a culture change, and so there's, the upside to the pandemic is that outdoor sports and recreation are already booming, and we think are going to be sustained for a long time with regard to an uptick in participation. And my favorite quote here is that buying bikes is like toilet paper right now. I mean, stores are selling out. They can't keep bikes in stock, including mountain bikes. Nordic ski equipment sales, we're talking with our retail partners, are projected to be significantly higher. And even running and walking is surging right now. So while we know it's a difficult time for tourism and for the hotel industry, we think a center like ours is going to be just what the community needs. I mean, it was an important need before, but in the coming years, we think it'll be a real draw for Middleton, and that people will be coming here, both destination users and day trip users, to use the trails, to use the amenities at the center, and to stop and have a meal or a cup of coffee, and if they're staying overnight, to partake of the local amenities. So we're hoping, we're confident that that it'll be this will be a real asset for all of us, including an amenity for local businesses with regard to retaining and recruiting employees. This will be a community center as well as a kind of a tourism destination. So with all that said, that you all consider a $30,000 sponsorship, and this could be a multi-year pledge, whatever might work best, to sponsor the wayfinding signage on the entire complex. And Yuri can talk in a minute briefly about what we're going to tie together with the trails, but this would provide the city and the Tourism Commission with the opportunity to brand the signage and the wayfinding with with your Visit Middleton brand, and be a permanent partner of ours, and permanently recognized as people enjoy the trail system, which is, after all, what this place is all about. So that wayfinding system we're envisioning as a unified brand with regard to the signage that would tie together the mountain biking and skiing trails at Blackhawk Ski Club, the Pleasant View Golf Course ski trails, and the city's mountain bike trail system, and then the entire trail complex on in our facility. Yuri, you want to say just a bit more of kind of unifying those trail systems, which right now are not?
Yeah, there's very little signage exists right now. So our goal is when someone comes to visit and they enter from CXC facility, or they just join Blackhawk, whether they're cross-country skiing or mountain biking, they would not know what the difference is between the trail system. So they can easily find themselves where they are. If they're on their own or with a family, they know what trail to take for safety purposes, so they can be comfortable and be welcome to come back. And I think one thing TJ haven't mentioned, it's connecting also hiking trails. With Blackhawk as being a connector trail can go to Pope's Farm for hiking, so connecting those trails, and connecting also to the Ice Age Trail as well. So the hiking, I think, will be a big part of the trail system maps, etc.
So I'll just finish by saying that since June 1st, we've really been pushing for the initial capital campaign goal that we need to meet in order to build the driveway and parking lot and reach that phase 1 goal. And we've had, what you might think surprisingly is more interest now than we've ever seen before with regard to the community stepping up and being interested in seeing us get this center built. And we'd love to see the Tourism Commission, give us another boost like you did the first time with the trail clearing gift, and join us in a permanent partnership. And it'd be important for additional donors and for the community as a whole to see, again, the city and the Tourism Commission kind of partnering with us in this way. So we hope you'll consider it and come back to us with of your own. We want this to be a partnership and a dialogue. So it's just kind of a starting point proposal to get the discussion going. So I'll stop it there. And
does anyone have any questions, I guess, right off the bat? Nobody?
I just said I can't wait till it's done. I think that looks great.
Cool.
And I just want to say thank you for, you guys have done very well and done a great job of being in front of us and communicating updates and such. And it's always kind of nice to see what your progress is looking like. In terms of any kind of partnerships, that's obviously something we'll definitely take under advisement. We have kind of the tall task to figure out what a budget is going to look like next year and try to guess what that's going to entail. And destination partnerships is what we've done in the past, and what this would fall under, would kind of fall into that bucket. We're just kind of not there yet, but we're getting there in terms of those decisions. And Julie's gonna see what her crystal ball looks like, and she's gonna get a budget together down to the dollar.
It's hazy. I'll just tell you that.
This is Steve. Just let me make a comment on that topic. It's hazy for everybody. I mean, listening in on the hospitality and the restaurant world, it's not hazy. That's not good at all. But I think we all have to frame, we're business owners. We realize this is a blip in time. And if we take a 10-year time horizon, the fact is it may be a 10% overall of 10 years blip. So, I mean, all the businesses that are represented in the conversation today are in for the long haul, including the CXC Sports Center. And, we all are involved in this. We're not doing this for a 1 or 2 year benefit. This is a 50-year cycle thing that we're dealing with here. So if we look at a 10-year time horizon on the money, I think on behalf of the board of this complex, looking at as a commitment, knowing that cash may not come right away, but the commitment is rock solid for our ability to go out and finance this. That will help us move it in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, nobody probably wants to see everything come to fruition more than this group. We're really truly excited about everything that's coming. I mean, from the hotel standpoint, from the tourism standpoint, everything. It's kind of a great opportunity for us, to say the least, to have more of kind of your non-traditional sports venue come in, because it makes it unique. and that, I agree that we would definitely be able to generate and prosper from it. And, if it's something where we can keep the conversation going, I know we're going to start dipping into some of that stuff here in the coming months. I don't know, Julie, do you have anything kind of to add to that?
I think it would be helpful, TJ, if we could get some sense of where we are in terms of actually booking business for some of the groups that we have talked about in the past. If we could get some sense of what the interest is. And I recognize that, we're talking 3 or 4 years out, but quite frankly, that's what the industry analysts are telling us we're looking at before we get back to what we would consider to be a typical year. So looking 3 or 4 years ahead is not a concern. I think we're just trying to get a handle on what kind of business are we looking at coming in here, in addition to the secondary revenue streams, which would be your social events. And I'm getting the impression that any recreational usage would be at no charge to the folks that choose to use it. So there's no trail pass or anything of that nature.
There will, are you still on?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there will be only trail pass for snowmaking, kind of for cross-country ski portion, because to cover the snowmaking, but not for mountain biking and hiking and snowshoe use, because it doesn't, maintenance of the bike trails are done by Corp and their volunteers. And we're working with Blackhawk to have a mutual agreement that members of Blackhawk can access trails at Middleton with no any additional charge. And anyone that enters from the Middleton side can access trails at Blackhawk with no additional charge. So it's a unified trail system.
I think it's really terrific that we have combined all of these different elements into more of a package. Because I remember almost 4 years ago when I came on board and we were first talking about this, it was really pretty relegated to the Erdman properties. And I think when you include the mountain bike path and the golf course in Blackhawk, that just increases the value of the asset from a tourism perspective.
Yeah, no question about that.
Yeah, I'm just super excited about it. I wish there was something we could do to keep it moving, and we'll chat about it.
Right. Great. Well, thanks so much, Julie. And we'll get you, we'll put together a projection of what the next couple of years are going to look like specifically with regard to booking events and get that to you.
Okay, I think that would be helpful.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was great seeing you. Take care.
Bye.
All right. We can move into more exciting stuff. The 2020 tourism budget reforecast. This sounds like a Julie Peterman item.
I'd love to pass the baton to anybody that wants it. Laura, can you bring the workbook up for us?
Yeah.
Please.
Yep. What tab would you like to start with?
Let's start with the 2020 room tax forecast. So this was our starting point for reworking the numbers. Bill Burns and I have had numerous conversations about the shortfall, what we think the shortfall is going to be. I've been on industry webinars and listening to numerous analysts, looking at weekly reports from a company called Longwoods, which is forecasting travel. And we landed on these percentages for Q1 and Q2 and what we're thinking for Q3 and Q4. Now, this was before we started experiencing an uptick in COVID cases. So, you know, all bets are off if the county changes what they're doing in terms of the order. But this is our best estimate at what we're going to be looking at. Q2, it's a little bit deceptive because in the first quarter, North Central Group asked to have their Q1 payment deferred, which the Common Council voted to approve. So we actually have 180,000 and some change that will be appearing in the second quarter, which should be in the first quarter, kind of skews that a little bit. But I think the good news is there will be some money in the second quarter. Moving into the third quarter, based on what Jim was telling us and some of the things that we're hearing about major events that are canceling, I don't think there's anything left except football. I mean, Ironman just canceled. That was last week, I guess. So I think that was the last major event that I'm aware of that's going to have what I would consider a devastating impact on the travel and tourism business in Dane County. And then again, we had all expected it to be sort of moving in a opposite direction, moving around to the fourth quarter. Not so sure about that right now. So at the end of the day, we're looking at a shortfall of a little over $1 million. Laura, if you want to go to the next page, please. So I'm just going to walk through. This is the anticipated revenue with our $500 grant. So again, this is just a reiteration of what was on the previous page. And then Laura, if you'd like to go to the last page, please. Yep. So I just want to walk through a couple of what I'll call decision items here. As we start moving down the column on the right-hand side, these are the adjustments that have been made. The approved budget is over on the right. In the center is the year-to-date actuals, as best we could account for at the time that I did this last week. And then the right-hand column is the reforecast. The wages and the personal benefits, all pretty fixed based on what finance gives us, so no adjustments to really be made in that. It did come down a little bit because when Melissa Bosie and I were doing this forecast last year, we had 2 open positions at the time. So we anticipated the max for both of these, and some of those benefits went down a little bit. Came out ahead on that one just a tad. And then moving into the operating expenses, that first line item there of meals, we're still anticipating that the Circle Wisconsin Marketplace will be held. They had moved from April into November. And the Destination Wisconsin Fall Conference, we just had a membership committee meeting last week. We're trying to decide if we want to go face-to-face or go virtual. I think one or the other is going to happen, so I'm still going to leave some funds in there for that. Moving down that column to the training line, again, I added some funds in for travel and for registration fees for that conference.
I was just going to tell you too, I believe I talked to Wendy about Circle Wisconsin, and she's going to probably make a decision on that next month. She doesn't know really either way yet. They're not leaning one way or another. Okay. But just an FYI.
And that one is a sales opportunity for us. That's a gathering of tour operators. So we're hoping that that goes through, but again, we'll see. Moving down that column to research, We had anticipated taking on a couple of new tools this year to help us better forecast, and under the circumstances, I'm going to forego that. But we will continue to get the tourism economics report, because I think that's really helpful as far as metrics for what we're doing in tourism and the impact that it's having on Middleton. That's already been paid for, so we are good for the remainder of the year with that line. And software, same situation there. We were going to look at doing some upgrades to SimpleView, which is our CRM tool, and we're going to pull that back for the remainder of the year. We are still working with the attorney, the city attorney, on the memorandum of agreement for Belter and Lincoln, the agency that we chose to lead the branding project for us. So I'm anticipating there are going to be some expenses that are associated with that. Continuing on down into operating expenses. Sorry. Tourism grants. The tourism grant line, if you keep scrolling down, Laura. Up just a tad.
Over there.
There you go, fourth one down.
Yep.
We have to date paid Wisconsin Land Information and WSNA. The track coaches have not submitted an invoice yet, but I will contact them to let them know that if they want that award, they better get an invoice in pretty soon. And then we had 3 groups that have moved into 2021 that have asked for a deferral on their grants. So at this point, I think we just freeze this line because I don't anticipate anybody coming forward in the remainder of the year under the circumstances and looking for any grant funds from us. Kind of a similar situation, a couple of lines down on the trade show grants. We did not get a commitment from the Madison Marriott West this year because they were going through some personnel changes. And Corey has indicated that he's probably not going to be using all of the funds that were awarded to North Central Group. We might be getting a refund back from them. So significant drop in expenses coming forth in that line. Couple of lines down on destination partnership, same situation. We still owe $10,000 to the Middleton Area Development Corporation for the Stonehorse Green consultant. 2 payments basically left there. And the other events that we had planned on coming to us for sponsorships have all canceled for the remainder of the year. So pretty significant savings on that line as well.
I was going to just give you an update on our grants. I'm guessing we probably will not use $10,000 to $15,000, if not more.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Good to know. Thank you. Well, it's not good to know, but I appreciate the heads up.
Yep.
Continuing on down, Laura, advertising. I just cut this 50% across the board. Mari and I talked a little bit about advertising today. I think we can probably bring this number down even more, but I want to let it sit here for now while we still work through some things with Pilch and Barnett for projects that we had anticipated having in Q3 and Q4. I mean, for the most part, we have been talking to residents and doing everything that we can to help promote local businesses with curbside pickup, shopping online. Now we're moving into some of the businesses are open, so we're talking a little bit more about health and safety protocols. that folks have in place, but none of these efforts have really required any expenditures. We're looking at doing a project with Pilch and Barnett that would feature some of the local businesses and maybe boosting some of our Facebook posts and Instagram, but again, no big expense associated with that. So I'm pretty sure that we can drive this down a little bit more than we have. Continuing on down to promotions. This is our line for giveaways, silent auction items, things that we're donating to events. Haven't had any requests for anything for Q3 and Q4. There's a handful of events out there. I think we can manage those types of requests with what we currently have in the inventory. So we're gonna dial way back on that one. Destination Madison, which is directly below that, they receive 17% of our total room tax collections. So this is our estimate on what they'll be receiving for 2021. That's a huge, huge decrease for them. And fortunately, they were able to work with the city of Madison and reach an agreement on the cuts that they're having to take with the city of Madison that will still allow them to operate at 3/4 capacity, I will say, and bring some staff back off of furlough by the month of September. I'm pretty concerned about them because we depend on them to do sales and marketing for us in regional, national, and international events. So I sit on the board of directors for Destination Madison, and I also serve on their foundation. So we're in pretty close communications with each other. I've expressed my concern to Deb and told them we would do whatever we could to help in any way that we can. So more to follow on that as we start looking ahead to 2021. I think we're all of the opinion at this point that there's not much we can do about 2020 except just try to get through it and support our local businesses as best we can and start making gradual reach outs to these other markets as they start to come back online. Building and maintenance projects, which is a couple lines down, I'm going to leave that the way it is because of the remediation work that we're going to do as a result of the air quality test. We did run the results past our insurance company, and they assured us that there aren't any significant health risks that are associated with the fiberglass particles and the little bit of mold that's floating around in here, but it was confirmed that it can cause irritations, and their recommendation was that we go ahead and replace the floor, which was one of the recommendations of the consultant, as well as do something about this mold. My feeling is as long as we're doing that, we might as well try to get the window replacement taken care of in the back half of the museum. That was something I wanted to do when I first came on board. And we couldn't come to terms with the city attorney and the contractor. So I'd like to take another try at that. And then a couple of other just minor things. We had talked about putting a system on the front door that makes it mobile accessible so that folks in wheelchairs or have any kind of mobility issues can get in here easier. This was a direct result of me being on crutches for 2 weeks and trying to get in that front door without assistance. So again, it's kind of a minor thing, but it could be a very big thing for people who are visiting. We don't have any estimates yet on what this work is going to cost. We're working with our colleagues over in facilities. One of the thoughts that we had was to look at the Amish community and see if there would be any carpenters that would be interested in taking on this project, because I think those of us that work here would really like to maintain the integrity of the existing floor if we can. It's not a requirement by the State Historical Society, however, so if it's just totally ineffective from a cost perspective, we can look at replacing it with whatever is a comparable solution for a wood floor. Heading way down toward the bottom of the spreadsheet, Laura, public relations. We had planned on doing some projects in this line which would have required some research, and under the circumstances we're going to forego that. It was reaching out into a millennial market, and at this point I'm not sure who the traveler really is. We're hearing reports that it's the boomer group who are traveling to see family. Same thing in that younger market, traveling to see family. So it just doesn't seem like anything that's timely at the moment. We are, however, going to do the Front Porch Know Your Neighbor campaign, which I referenced earlier, and we already made a partial payment on a sweepstakes, a social media sweepstakes, so we're going to try to carry that through during the holiday season. Fairly significant drop in expenses for that line. And then the last item on the decision list is the trolley. I put funds in here assuming that this will start up again in August and run some sort of a regular schedule. I've had a couple of meetings with John Meyer, who's the president of Badger Bus Lines, and he has been extremely understanding under the circumstances. Since this contract that we have with him was scheduled, we were scheduled to start running the trolley again at the end of March. Staff had done quite a bit of work on getting ready for this with new signage, new promotional materials, a rollout campaign, and then the pandemic hit. I've had a couple of conversations with Mike Davis, our city administrator, and our city attorney around the force majeure clause that we have. And while it is kind of gray, the last time John and I met, which was at the beginning of July, I said, the bottom line is we can't perform. I mean, we don't have any visitors here that would be riding the trolley. And I don't see any changes in the hotel occupancy rates anytime in the near future. So I'm kind of on a month-to-month basis with him right now on doing an assessment. Based on what Corey and Jim have shared with us tonight, I'm guessing that it's not feasible to start this up again in August. If anything, we'd push it into September and see where we're sitting at that point. At any rate, significant decrease in what we originally budgeted for that because of the situation that we find ourselves in. So having said all of that, that brings us to $830,520 and that all-important 28 cents for expenses this year. With all of our cuts, we still have a shortfall of $374,588. So my request of you today would be to consider a motion that would permit us to request that money from the tourism fund to help us balance the spreadsheet for 2020. Any questions on any of the discussion items or thoughts on anywhere else that we could be making some adjustments?
I mean, I guess I don't see anything. This looks good to me, considering how many adjustments were on here. So I don't know how many more you could make. Unless you guys want to voluntarily eliminate some salary and benefits or something.
That would actually be a last resort, Corey, from my perspective.
No, I mean, you guys did an awesome job. Nothing really sticks out. We've all kind of been having these conversations ongoing, and it just doesn't appear to be really changing, and it's necessary. So you said you do need a motion on this?
Yes.
So if I would entertain if anyone would like to make a motion, or if anyone has any discussion.
And before you go there, if you feel more comfortable giving a maximum amount, in the event that we can make some more adjustments on here before we go to the finance committee and the council to ask. I think Bill and I are both of the opinion that we want to wait and see what we actually collect for the second quarter. But I would most likely be going to those two groups sometime in August to ask to go into the fund balance.
So you mean you want to look at the commission recommending a maximum above what this has outlined?
I would say this would be the maximum that we would need. If if we don't want to say a specific number tonight, knowing that there's a possibility we might be able to adjust.
I mean, do we just entertain a request for up to $375,000 and kind of see how the year plays out? I mean, is that?
I was going to say give him a little extra comfort or padding, if you will. I mean, if your renovations to get the tourism office up to par costs a little bit more. I know you're going to probably save money on the trolley, so you might make it up, but I'd rather have you have a little bit more and not use it. Knowing, and I think we can trust the staff that we'd like you to stay at the 374, but I think we should give them a little padding, because if the economy drops even more in December and they don't even pick up some of those room revenues in December, or in the fourth quarter, excuse me, you're going to be really short, won't you?
Right.
Well, I left the
could we give them a ring?
I left the reserve for contingency fund or line in there, so that's another 20.
So that would give you what I would have recommended then. So if we keep you at 374, you got the 20 in there if you need it.
I'd feel comfortable with that.
But you said you don't even have any bids yet on the work, right?
No, I'm basing this on bids that we got last year, 2 years ago, for window work and painting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I know painting isn't a floor, but.
Well, and I'm just wondering, like, so do you want? I guess it seems like we're in the consensus of in that range. I mean, if we ask for too much, it's going right back in the fund balance anyway. So, like, do you want to bump that up to like a maximum of 400,000 and really kind of contingent on what these bids come back on? Because that's really I guess everything's a question mark, but that's a big question mark.
I would feel comfortable if we had it up at 400,000, stating that we're trusting the staff to still continue doing the due diligence to reduce expenses as much as possible, and trying to really aim for the 374. And then any extras at the end of the year will go back into the fund. Maybe that's how we have to state it. Anything above 374, 588 and 28 cents, has to go back into the fund.
And
it would automatically drop back in there.
Drop back in then. Okay.
Yeah, and we've got obviously more than enough money to cover that in the fund balance, so we're not putting like a huge dent in it or anything. So
right. Yeah, Kevin, and for other folks that might not know it, we have over $2 million in the fund. So we're, you know, I mean, this is what the fund is for. If you want to call it a rainy day fund, I'd say we're in a torrential downpour right now. So I have no qualms about going and asking for the monies.
So yeah, I think, do you want, Susan, is that your motion? Oh, you're on mute.
And you can word it how you want me to, Julie, but
Okay.
I would recommend that we, with a limit of 400,000.
So an approval for up to 400,000,
400,000.
or I'm sorry, a request for up to 400,000 for tourism from the fund, to request from the fund. Is that
Fund.
how we technically word it? It's a request or a recommendation. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, do we request it or did they request it?
Well, I'm actually requesting it. So
I think we got you to go to finance, right?
So we're approving her request.
You're approving the expense, right? You're
Yeah.
approving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just as long as we have it worded appropriately.
So not to exceed 400K, is that what? Okay.
Mhm. Correct.
Okay.
I mean, if something else happens, I mean, we'll have to chat about it again. So I know.
Yeah, and this might come back to you when we're talking next month about 2021. Because again, we'll know the revenues for the second quarter at that point. And I'll probably have a better idea of where we are with the trolley at that point. But at least this is a starting point for us.
Is John going to expect any type of payment at all, but you think he'll totally let us out of it with the force majeure?
I don't know at this point.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay.
I was with her. Well, we met one time, and it was. I kind of had mixed feelings about that, but you know, he's being very, very flexible, and you know, we just obviously want to do the right thing, but do with what's within our ability to do. You know, and I think that's the hard part right now is I just don't know which way to go on that. You know, with the way hotels are, you know, nobody has a crystal ball, and it's like, I think the fear is you get a trolley start and then nobody's on it, but then people might be on it, and I just think just not knowing, and it's just really hard. And that was like, I think my challenge walking away from that meeting is like, I just don't know. But yeah, he's been very flexible, and I'll be pretty thankful for that. He'd
have to social distance anybody on the trolley too.
Right.
And then there's a concern with his driver, and what if they get, you know,
right.
So.
Yeah. I got the impression that he has protocols in place. The point that I was trying to deliver was we can't perform because we don't have any visitors that are going to be needing that kind of transportation. And until that changes, now whether we get to a point where we want to say, well, you know, we're going to look at occupancy of blah, blah, blah. And then if we reach that threshold, then we will resume the schedule. Or we do a trial run and try just doing it on the weekends. I think at this point, some hours would be better than no hours from his perspective, and employing some of his people part-time is better than not having them working at all. But my other concern, and I've heard this over the last 4 years of my career here, that this trolley rides around empty a fair portion of the time, and that's when citizens are commenting on it. And I think at this stage of the game, that's the last thing we want to have to be talking about is, you know, spending money on transportation that nobody is using, or it's perceived that nobody is using.
I agree.
I think it's worth it, you know, even like discussing just a very, very abbreviated service just to have something. But I guess if you want to update us, I was just going to kind of with time. We're at about 5 after 5, and we have a couple things to go over yet. So we still need a second on this, right?
Yeah, there's a motion on the table.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just so everyone can get going here eventually. Does anyone want to second that, or do we have any more questions or discussion?
I'll second the motion.
All right. Is there any further discussion or questions? All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, it carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Julie, your item to 2021.
So 2021, again, I don't have a workbook completed yet. We're about 2 weeks behind where we ordinarily are in our process. In fact, the staff kickoff meeting is next week, but I did want to share some things that I'm hearing from industry analysts. And right now they're saying that 2021 will probably be 35% less than what 2019 actuals were, and that we're going to continue to see the leisure market coming back, particularly the drive market, going anywhere from 50 to 600 miles. Air travel is really suffering right now and probably will continue to do so. Business travel coming back really, really slowly. Probably within 6 to 8 months, we'll start to see some activity there. And then meetings, conventions, sporting events, anything that's got large numbers of attendees could take as long as 3 years. So they're suggesting, right, I know, it's, yeah. They're suggesting
one large meeting a year.
I know, I'm looking at you and thinking about the situation that you're in. 2023, 2024, before we see anything that would resemble the volume of travel and business that we enjoyed in 2019. So to that end, the last analyst webinar that I listened to was suggesting that we use 70% in Q1, 75% in 2 and 3, and 80% in Q4. Bill and I are thinking we're going to land on 70% of what we did in 2019. So that's going to be my starting point for the 2021 budget. A couple of things that we want to take under advisement as we're walking through this is grants and how we want to approach grants. We've got the tourism grant, which historically goes to North Central Group and to Madison Marriott West to represent us at events, and then tourism grants, which we typically give to events that are coming in to the community, and then the destination partnership lines. I don't know, Jim and Corey, if you're prepared at this point to even offer any thoughts about what you might be considering for sales type travel going into 2021. I would highly encourage us to try to hold with the amounts that we've been doing on tourism grants. They're ranging anywhere between 30 and 40. And if we can get a sense from Jim of what we're looking at coming into 2021 that's already booked, I would even consider giving them some funds to help them hold their event. And destination partnership, I did not anticipate, I'm sorry? I did not anticipate that the cross-country ski folks were going to have an ask tonight. I had a conversation with TJ a couple of weeks ago about what we might possibly consider doing as sponsorships, and the trail signs were a suggestion that I had. We might want to talk about that a little bit more and see if there's something we would want to be doing. Any suggestions that
What
you
a
all might have?
clarification, were they asking for 30,000 in total? Or was it 30,000 annually for X amount of time? I missed that.
My impression was 30,000 total, but broken up however we needed to break it
Okay.
up.
That's how I heard it too, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, if we can give 10 this year and 10 this year and 10 this year, you know, maybe do it like that. The other things that we've historically had in destination partnership were Circle Wisconsin, the sponsorships there. We've done some smaller sponsorships for groups that have been very loyal to the Marriott for annual meetings, or one that's coming to mind is the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. They have a fundraising gala every year, and we've given them $1,000 toward that event. Destination Madison and some of the initiatives that we've collaborated with them on, like the Essential Madison experiences. Stonehorse Green, I would suspect that we'll be asked to try to help somehow to further the construction of Stonehorse Green. I have no idea what that would look like. That's a conversation that I'll be having with Abby. But typically, those are the types of things that the grant funds are going toward.
I can just speak on our behalf quickly. You know, in a perfect world, if it's safe to travel and to be able to still do proactive selling, we will be in. I'm just not really confident that the events that we normally travel are going to actually take place. You know, there's a large tourism summit called Go West that's supposed to be in March, and they've already switched that to virtual. So the best thing that I could probably say from us is we're anticipating, I mean, at this point, we're desperate for business. So, you know, if there's an opportunity to try to bring in more tours and such, you know, we'll take it. And I would say that I normally would have had my grants in by now, but you know, that happened right in March when we normally submit them. And so I've held off, not knowing. We would probably, in theory, mirror what we would put forth. And if we had to scale back for your sake to make the numbers work, we could do that too. The one thing I was kind of floating around was just, you know, kind of doing it by event. But the problem with that is the largest and the most beneficial show that I attend is the Bus Association show, and that's in January. Their registration's supposed to open, and I don't even know if they know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If there even is a show. So if the money is there, you know, we would certainly be interested in pursuing, if not all of it, you know, maybe an abbreviated event. I'm just not convinced in the first quarter or second quarter that these shows are going to take place in a normal capacity. I'm really not. But you have to plan for them. That's the hard part.
Right.
Yeah,
I know
I think the same thing, Corey. Most of the shows that we would go to, and actually right now, as I'm sure, well, you're aware and Julie's aware, but everybody else might not be. Right now, our entire sales staff is actually furloughed. So, I mean, it would depend on when we had people back to attend these shows. You know, I would attend what I could, but then too, a lot of the shows that I had attended were, you know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 attendees. And I just don't, I mean, there's no way that's going to be allowable by January or February. And like you mentioned, you know, we need to plan for it now, but it's tough when you don't know what to plan for, you know.
Yeah. Another thing I thought of too, Julie, and I know accounting is not going to like this thought and you may wipe it out right away, but, you know, if we have money left over, it's like, what if we accounted for it somehow and held onto it and just deferred that into 21 and utilize that and not apply for anything, you know, and use it as a discussion point for the tourism commission. I know they hate that for the books. But if this is an extenuating circumstance, like maybe we could do that. And it's all tracked, so just to throw it
Yeah,
out.
I can certainly talk to Bill about it and see what the possibilities are along that line. The other thing I was
able to do half the stuff that I did last year, next year I think that would be a win.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure anything that's in the first quarter of Q1 isn't going to happen. And if it happens, it'll be virtual.
Well, and I think the reality, at least in the tourism side, I have a feeling that a lot of these events are going to get bumped into the third and the fourth quarter. And it's going to be insane next year at the end of the year because all these associations are trying to make their money because their events are their money makers. And it could be just one right after another. I have no idea. So then it could be making decisions again. But if there is any way, just with the uncertainty, at least on the trade show side, and especially since, Jim's uncertain too, if we could leave that number somewhere in that ballpark, I think that would be helpful. Now, obviously, if that's not an option, then we'll have to visit.
Yeah. Maybe the best approach would be for you and Jim and I to just have an offline discussion.
Okay.
And look at the events that historically we've gone to, because I think if they did happen and y'all couldn't go, we could use that as staff training and development money.
Right.
And maybe just reallocate some of that. The other thing I was thinking of in that destination partnership line, if Destination Madison does come to us and ask for support for this same type of thing, would we want to consider setting some funds aside for them? And I can have a chat with Deb and Diane prior to meeting again next month to just see how they're feeling about their own situation.
I'm all for helping and, trying to do what we can, but I guess I'm not really, it's like grants are always usually the first thing to go because it's, and I don't think we should do that. But if we're talking about next year, if we're going to have to dip into our fund balance again, is that something that we want to, I hate to say, hold on the grants, but I don't know. Like, the trade show, or not the trade show, like just our grant program for events coming into town. It's like, do we consider freezing that for next year? But then if somebody potentially could have something where they could close some business, at that point, do we move money around?
Right.
I don't really know what the easiest solution is there. But if you need to, scale some of that back, we can obviously have a discussion about it.
Okay.
If that helps, probably not.
Yeah, and I think I did mention earlier that there were 3 groups that were scheduled for 2021 that we had awarded grants to that have asked for deferrals to 2021. And Jim, we probably should take a look at these and see if they truly have rebooked.
Sure.
But that came to a total of $11,900. So and again, I'm not asking for a decision today, but I'll include that.
They would have to reapply, would they not?
Well, that's what they're asking. Would they have to reapply, or would we just, because they've rebooked, would we just go ahead and defer under the circumstances?
I don't know. I guess that would be a question because like the actual grant was filled out for 2020. So I don't know. I'm sure in a paperwork world, it would probably be better if they reapplied, but I don't know.
And again, we can cross that bridge when we get to it next month. I'm just tossing out some things that we'll have to take under advisement.
Yeah.
Remediation. So we're back to the discussion about, as long as we're doing this work in this building, is it time to look at asking the Middleton Area Historical Society to move the museum out of the back and turn this building over to tourism? Staff really feels like we could use some more room here. I mean, right now we're not in compliance with protocols for COVID-19 down in that front office. So if we are in here at all, we're staggering when we're in here. So there's only one person down in the front, and it's okay if I'm here because I'm in an office by myself. We'd like to have storage space in here so we could get rid of this storage unit that we're paying on every year. and maybe have a conference room or at least a meeting space of some sort that we could also offer up to nonprofits as a meeting space. So I'm working with Mike on what the agreement is with the city and the Historical Society to just see what the parameters are and if it's even an option.
I was involved or with the commission when that was made, and I know it was just a matter of we didn't need the space at the time, and it was to try to draw more, foot traffic down in the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is over the last year or two, like what has the foot traffic been through the museum? It's
really minimal. I would say in a good week there are five to seven people that come through in a week. And that's really seasonal. That's probably from May to September.
And are they just walking through it because it's there, or
a lot of times they're coming over from the museum because the Mustard Museum refers them over here for information on other things to do. Or they're coming in because they've actually heard about it and they're railroad buffs. And they want to see the old train station but Mari and I were talking about this the other day. There's not a whole lot of railroad paraphernalia in here. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff in the back there. And I guess my other concern is the Historical Society doesn't really seem to be very interested in anything that they have back there.
Yeah.
They came a couple of years ago and took some stuff out and never replaced it. So there's a mannequin that doesn't have anything on it, and there's tripods that don't have any information on them. I mean, if there was more of an interest by the Historical Society to do something with it, I think we'd be more supportive of it.
I mean, I think that's kind of run its course at this point. When we originally made that agreement, it was because we didn't need the space, and now we really do. And if it comes down to it where, if you still have people that have interest in looking at the building is I don't know if they have it, but maybe they have some stuff railroad related that they could just put on the wall or something like that. If somebody wanted to actually walk through the building, they still could. But I mean, with COVID, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
So.
Right.
I agree. I think we should take over the space. You guys should make it so it's a more usable office. It's more welcoming to the people coming in. You'd have an workroom or a meeting room that you could sit down with potential customers or clients coming in. You could use some of those pictures throughout the building. And as you said, Corey, if someone really wants to walk around, if there's not a meeting in there, you would probably have no problem if someone wanted to walk in and see some of the pictures.
Right, and that's the thing is, I think especially if you're going to propose like some kind of meeting space, I've got to imagine they've got to have some stuff related to the depot or trains or something that there's your
actually a lot of it's over at the senior center, because I think when the senior center moved out of here, they took some of those things along with them.
So, let them have the rest of it, and I think it's time. I think it's run its course. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll pursue discussion with Mike and the folks over at the Historical Society. What that's going to mean is we'd be doing some additional remodeling in here, taking out walls and reconfiguring the space. So I'll try to get the best handle on what that cost would be and present that in the 2021 budget as well.
Yeah, because you could just do the floor.
Yeah.
Right in with all that.
Well, that part of what prompted the discussion when the facility folks came over, they said, if you're going to maintain this floor, you have to take these walls out, which they didn't see as a big deal because it appears that they're fairly easy to move. But at that point, where staff is looking at each other going, well, if we're going to do that, then we might as well talk about reconfiguring the space here and trying to make it more usable for tourism as a business office and still maintain the front part of the building for the visitor center.
You don't need any type of motion for us or recommendation from the tourism to
move the
Historical Society out?
I think these are all conversations that are going to be taking place within the next month as we start working on the 2020 budget. I'm just bringing them up because they're discussion items that we'll have to make decisions on and vote on in August. And then the last item on my list was additional revenue streams. If the room tax collections continue to go the way they are or plateau to the point that they have, we're probably going to have to start talking about where else can we get some revenue here. We're probably not going to print a visitor guide for 2021 because we've got a warehouse full right now of 2020 guides. And we'll just be doing some upgrades on the website to the existing guide. We could consider selling ads for the visitor guide. I don't know how much money that would generate. Traditional DMOs have membership fees. I don't know how realistic that is for our community because we've always offered these services at no charge to folks. Or do we start pulling back on what we're doing in terms of advertising and the use of an agency and look more at moving things in-house, excuse me, and scaling back what we're using outside resources to do for us? That's probably the most feasible solution right now if we need to start looking at additional revenue. So those are the kinds of things that I wouldn't say are keeping me up at night, but are causing me to go to bed a little bit later because I'm thinking about how are we going to move into 2021, not tap into that fund balance if we absolutely don't have to, and yet maintain the same quality of professional services that we've been able to provide to the city and our visitors for the last at least 4 years in my tenure and well before that. So we'll have a lot to consider in August. And Corey, maybe we just want to focus on budgets at that meeting and limit our conversations to that.
Yeah. That's
it. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Julie, I probably should know this. Are we charging people to have advertising on the website for the tourism?
No.
Okay, well, that could be one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I couldn't remember if that was a line in your budget or not. Sorry.
all right. So then are we good to move on? So moving into the last item is the equity positioning. With everything going on, I guess, Kathy, was there something in particular that
Well, yes, when this came out about the CEO of CrossFit and knowing that we had given a grant, and I just wanted to have a conversation to see if, Julie, if you know of any other tourism organizations that you are in communication with, if they're doing any kind of equity statement as part of their contracts or.
You know, Kathy, I just sat through a session at the Destinations International virtual convention on DEI, and it's all over the board.
Okay.
I mean, people are really trying to understand what is the best way to communicate what their position is for not only their DMO, but for their city as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to be participating in an exercise with other members of the Destination Madison board.
Okay.
This week to start the conversations about this. So how about if we just say, we'll continue the conversation. I will continue to, and we're also meeting, Destinations Wisconsin is having their board meeting on Friday. And I would suspect that this topic will come up during that meeting as well. And I'll get a temperature reading on what other folks are doing. I know the city has a position of sorts by passing the resolution.
Right.
that Alderman Fazzard had presented to the council at the last meeting. And then staff today in our team meeting talked about, small things that we can be doing, like ensuring that we're representing diversity in our images, in our visitor guide, in our posts, this front door, and trying to get this front door accessible would be in a small way adding to inclusion, which means anybody could access this building without any difficulty. And continuing to look for ways to address it through those types of measures.
When people apply for grants, and based on the organization's beliefs or what they're doing, can we deny them the grant based on, like, if they're not inclusive or?
If we were a private enterprise, we'd probably have more latitude along that line, because we're a city agency. I think that would be something I'd have to discuss with the city attorney. And do we get into First Amendment issues?
If we had a statement, if we had a part of our mission, maybe that would be helpful in certain cases.
And that might be the best place to approach it, is to rethink what our mission statement is.
Because obviously there are certain groups I really wouldn't want to have anything to do with, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to start the conversation.
And I'm glad you did, Kathy. I'm glad you did, because it's definitely top of mind in the tourism industry. And I think the conversation is going to result in actions that are actionable. I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
It won't just be, we're going to walk our talk. I think is how everybody feels about it. We're just trying to understand as an industry, what's the best approach to that? How do we do that?
Yeah.
So Julie, what you're saying is right now we don't have any message to the public of where we're standing on these issues? Not
as a department, as a city we do, but not as an individual department. So and my feeling is we're rolling up under what the city is saying. So if we want to have our own mission statement that addresses that, we certainly can.
I'd just like to see what other departments are doing, what other Destination Wisconsin or Madison, what they're doing. So.
Yeah. Did I answer your question, Jose?
Yes, I just think it would be a good idea just to have something simple, even if it's in our webpage, just stating where we are.
Right. As an organization.
Correct. And even if it's just to follow the guidance that the city has set up forward. But I think that a lot of people are looking into, unfortunately, you have to pick up a side.
Right.
You have to make it known. So I think.
And the other thing I was thinking is, I know that there's a movement to get the Middleton equity team back together, so to speak, and perhaps we can get a seat at that table and be part of the conversations that are taking place with that group as well.
Okay.
Jose makes a great point, though. I mean, if we just take what the city put out and put that on our website, I don't know if every department in the city of Middleton should be creating their own mission statement.
Right.
I mean, because it has to fall up underneath the city.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I thought we were kind of obligated to.
Well, I think everybody has created their own mission statement. We're looking at it as the city is the vision statement, and we all, as departments, are doing different things within our departments. So that made sense to me from a mission perspective.
But it'd be an easy fix just to put already what the city's put out there.
Yeah. Okay, let me
I shouldn't say that. I don't know how long it takes to put on a website, but I'm assuming Mari or Laura knows how to do it really quick.
Mari's pretty good at it. Let me say that. I think if we just decide what we want to craft and have out there.
All right, Mari, go for it.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing it up, Kathy.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we're kind of at the end here, and just any items up for the next agenda, which we probably should try to focus the most on the budget, but if anybody has anything pressing at all?
When is our next meeting? I'm sorry. Should I know that?
It's always the third Tuesday in August.
Okay. I'm just all of a sudden I'm on a couple more committees and boards, and so my calendars are
sure.
filling up very
No,
fast.
totally
for
understand. August
18th.
18th.
18th, yeah.
18th? Okay. The 12th, I've got one. That's why I asked. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right.
Let Jose get that one.
I'm sorry, who was that? Who seconded?
I did.
Jose.
Jose. Thank you.
All right. Good meeting, everybody. Get ready for budgets. That's always a fun one next month.
Woohoo!
Should we
Thank you,
start it?
everybody. We appreciate your support.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot,
All
everyone.
right, thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a great
Good night, everybody.
evening.
Nice meeting everybody.
I get myself out of here.